Hello and welcome back to a new video. I know that teaching can get very busy, and so in today's video I got you covered with 5 vocabulary activities that you can start introducing in your lessons tomorrow that will get your students engaged and wanting to learn more. And today's video, I'm really excited, is done in special collaboration with my friend and colleague Tasneem Salah. So after watching this video, make sure to check the description below as well as the cards above to watch the part 2 of this video. One of the most important steps in starting to teach new vocabulary is to build background knowledge. Because even if it's a word that the student is not familiar with, they may already be familiar with the context or the concept that is connected to that vocabulary word. So making sure that they are interacting with different ideas that are connected with that lends itself almost to a story, is very powerful to unlocking students' long-term memory in their connection with those vocabulary words. In order to build background effectively, the only materials that you're going to need are some cards or maybe some PowerPoint images or even just vocabulary cards that you may have laying around the classroom. One time when I did a lesson on culture with my students, I simply just showed them images of what culture may look like for a different place. And then they started engaging conversations about what culture looks like for them. And that way they could make a personal connection with what I was talking about. The next key step is to turn the question around and have them get involved with the concept that you're talking about. So in this instance, you can ask them, have you traveled before? And if you have students who are newcomers and they're a little bit hesitant on finding ways to talk in class or they have lack of vocabulary, then you can provide a perfect sentence stems and a word bank so that they're able to engage or write down their thoughts. Another key strategy when teaching new vocabulary is the use of word maps, and there's so many different kinds. But in today's example, I want to just share with you the 4-square method that I use with my students, where they simply write down the definition in their own words for a vocabulary word, a synonym, they put that vocabulary word in a sentence, and then they find a picture that helps them remember what that word means. If your students get stuck on any of the pieces, then be creative and think about ways that you can adapt it for them. I know my students tend to get stuck on what to draw, so I might show them different images that we had talked about before, and they can actually copy it into their notebooks. Strategy number 3 in introducing new vocabulary is the art of root analysis. I don't know about you, but I totally geek out when it comes to root analysis because I love to know if a word has a French base, a Greek base, a Latin base, and how it's connected and what its meaning is in a different culture. I absolutely love it. My students, not so much, but there's ways that you can make it fun. My students particularly like when they look at words like a puzzle, understanding that the prefix, a root, and a suffix has a certain meaning. But the way that we do it is that we have my students involved in games so that they will remember what these words mean, as well as having them learn them in a song or a chant. After watching this video, I highly recommend that you check out this video on really fun ways using Uno cards to get your students remembering the meanings of prefix and suffix words. One fun way that you can involve your entire class is by presenting a suffix or prefix on the board, and then have your students decide whether they think it's a suffix or prefix by going to that side of the room. It's really fun to see what the students are thinking, and sometimes there's a little peer pressure into thinking, oh, maybe I should go on this side. But I highly recommend it. It's a fun twist instead of just having them do old traditional worksheets. A fourth and really fun way to teach new vocabulary is with songs. Music is a universal language that our students enjoy, and it's such a great way to get students to remember things and to lock things into long-term memory. One of my favorite websites is called Flowcabulary, and it's filled with tons of songs that your students can listen to if you're trying to teach a concept, and you can print out the songs. But take a concept and then put it to a tune. Something that students know, like the Mexican hat song or the Wheels on the Bus or Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. I'll give you an example, and I'm putting myself out here. But when I was in high school, I took Latin. And my Latin teacher actually taught us the Latin conjugation through that tune of the Mexican Hat song, and I still remember it. It went a little bit like this. Sum es est, sumus estet sunt. I haven't used Latin in years, and I still remember that. So if you're ever thinking about trying to teach your students words and have them remember, make sure that you use a well-known tune that students are familiar with. Also, if you're looking for different themes, a great tool is Spotify because it's free and you can play it in your classroom. One of the things that I have discovered is this wonderful website that's called allmusic.com, and you can literally search up different topics by theme. So in our earlier example, when we were talking about travel, I can choose travel, and then I can look at a bunch of songs that go with that theme. And then I can print it out and have my students the lyrics. And then if we're talking about travel and going to different countries or cities, I can have them listen to the song and highlight all of the different words pertaining to that theme. And there you go. You've incorporated students' interests because they love music while teaching them content at the same time. Last, but certainly not least, is the power of using games to introduce vocabulary in your classroom. I must say, I have had a breakthrough this year with using a lot of games in my classroom, and it has really changed how my students view learning in class. And there's so many different ways you can introduce vocabulary with games. You can do vocabulary checkers, where each student gets to play against each other. You can also have your students do something as fun as bingo. And it's a simple game, but its students have been really familiar with using this since they were in kindergarten and even earlier than that. It's a great way to get them familiarized with different content vocabulary, and you can do in such a different way because you can have them, instead of just putting a marker on a vocabulary word, you can switch it up by saying something like, find a word that is the antonym of this, or find the word that starts with a prefix, and those types of things. So there's so many different ways that you can change bingo so that it's really fun for your students, very interactive. You can even have your students playing against each other in different ways. As long as they're speaking and integrating content academic language, you are going to see gains in your classroom. Thank you, dear teachers, for taking the time to watch this video. I know they have lots of choices of what you can watch, so I appreciate that you chose mine. And make sure to tune in next week for more tips, strategies, and resources for the English language learners in your classroom. Bye-bye.